Welcome to Creature Con Live Daily News. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ethan. Today we're going to be going over some footprints discoveries of early Cretaceous dinosaurs over in Europe, and as well a new prosauropod discovery has occurred, I believe, in South America. And as well as we are streaming over on X, YouTube, Kick, and Rumble. So, from Sci News, early Cretaceous dinosaur footprints discovered in southern England. Paleontologists in southern England have uncovered a set of well preserved footprints made by at least seven different dinosaur species about 140 million years ago, the early Cretaceous epoch. So,
Wait, did you say 7?
seven different, oh, dinosaur species.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
that wasn't hitting me at first. I was thinking of just the footprints. That's a lot. So, I'm guessing what might have been occurring if all of these footprints were taking place at the same time is maybe just a massive gathering of animals over in certain floodplain or lake bed like during the dry season. So we're referring to the early Cretaceous. So let's pull up one specific animal. Well, might pull up a number. Baryonyx. So a species of Spinosaur that used to inhabit England at around this time, possibly though slightly later. So Baryonyx.
IX? Because it's only showing it as did you say YX?
No, I said IX. Is it another Y too? Yeah, it's one of those genre or Spinosaur names that's a bit tricky with those two vowels. It's like, where are there two Y's? Or yeah, I think there are two Y's. Okay, so these look like theropod somewhat footprints, but another animal with three-toed hind feet that's very well, or at least in paleontology, is quite renowned in England is iguanodon, which is very possible it could be that other animal too. So this is Baryonyx. Looking at this picture, it's a bit too skinny if you're looking at it from a paleo accurate view. It also has far too thin of a neck, but definitely seeing its rib cage just too small of a core. It also looks a bit too short. I think the tail should be much longer compared to its body size. The feet. I've got an issue with its toes. Its toes do not have a very Spinosaur look to it,
Okay, is this better?
and even the arms. If this is supposed to represent different Spinosaur species from different parts of the world, um, it's better, but the Baryonyx is still a bit off. I think that the if that is Baryonyx, it's the one on the bottom. However, that could be Suchomimus as well. So you have Spinosaurus aegypticus in the main background. This could be Baryonyx. Has a really long jaw structure compared to its body size. I mean, all of the Spinosaurs did, but Baryonyx, I'd say, is one of the shorter, or has one of the shorter skulls compared to most species, and a bit almost more robust compared to other species of Spinosaur. Now, granted, you're taking a 30-foot long or a 9-meter long theropod that weighs somewhere around 3 tons, and comparing it with instances or with certain species that weigh more than 8.5
Okay, I got one from
tons.
Reddit.
That's okay. This one's really bad. That's that Fallen Kingdom one. That anybody that knows a couple of things about Baryonyx or its close relative Suchomimus over in northern Africa, which lived somewhere around 25 to 30 million years after Baryonyx evolved, would not approve of this. This is um yeah, still a bit of an odd Baryonyx. This is quite strange that all these depictions. I'd say I really like. Well, here's what I'm going to say. This picture, I don't mind his overall jaw structure. The problem is the rest of him. I think is a bit off. His arms aren't terrible. I think his forearms might be a little too puffy. I think there should be maybe a little less muscle, possibly. but the rest of him is a bit off. Actually, I don't think the legs in overall, like when it comes to the height, are bad, but it's just the toes are off. Um, Also, when it comes to the fish, I don't think baryonyx would be hunting coelacanths. They did exist. I mean, coelacanths have existed since the Devonian over 375 million years ago, far before the first dinosaurs would evolve, only somewhere around 235 to 240 million years ago. But there were a wide range, there have been a wide range of different species of fish that we have found in the different, or in the formation we have found baryonyx in over in England. I'd say I do like this sort of a ecosystem landscape, just texture. This watercolor too looks somewhat. There have been different species of pterosaurs and even iguanodontids, or the herbivorous dinosaurs that would give rise to the hadrosaurs or duckbill dinosaurs, that have been found in similar areas to baryonyx. So let's head back to the article. Actually, what was this? I don't mind this either. I actually think it overall looks good, but when it comes to the baryonyx, I think he has a bit of a long jaw, but also where the gum lines up, there's just something off about it. Also, I haven't seen any depictions, or at least it's the first, of baryonyx having long osteoderms along its back. This is something that is depicted on certain other species of theropod dinosaurs, especially certain members of the megalosaur family. Not so much the spinosaurs. If there is something, it's just an elongated back vertebrae. But baryonyx, suchomimus were they're part of the Baryonychidae lineage of spinosaurs, which did not have elongated back vertebrae at all. Let's head back to the article. So, University of Cambridge researchers Anthony Shalito and Neil Davis discovered a collection of 85 dinosaur footprints in the Lee Ness sandstone of the Ashdown Formation in a near continuous 3.7-mile or 6-kilometer long coastal cliff section extending between Fairlight Cove and Hastings in East Sussex, England. So, this is a bit of a distance from certain other areas that have received. Actually, no, that's not true. East Sussex is well renowned for its iguanodon footprints. Actually, let's pull up that animal real quick. So, IG
What am I pulling up?
iguanodon.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Oh, trying to think of how many. There are at least two different sites over in southern England. Also, I believe on the Isle of Wight, which is an island just south of central southern England, that hosts a wide variety of different iguanodon footprints. And iguanodon lived in England around 135 million years ago, close to the same time as baryonyx. And there were also other predators in the area, such as a certain species of dromaeosaur distantly related to Utah raptor. I think with this iguanodon, I don't think the overall skull looks bad. He almost has an elongated back vertebrae, which is something you might see in certain later species of iguanodontids, but not necessarily with iguanodon or its relative Decotodon over in North America at around this time. And he is far too skinny of forearms. I'd even say hind legs with this model. His neck could possibly have a bit more muscle. Iguanodon was a very stocky species of ornithopod, or just extremely muscular. Another thing is that there have been around three different species of iguanodon that have been discovered. I think with Bishwarenstis being the most famous species. It was also discovered back in the 1800s and named by Richard Owen, who was also the scientist that came up with the word dinosaur, meaning terrible lizard. It also named Iguanodon back in 1825. This is a bit better when it comes to overall musculature. I think I also just like how well defined the musculature is too. The toes, they look a lot better as well. Um, Iguanodon is just known for having, or it's depicted as having not necessarily like spongy like toes, but when it comes to just the overall texture or just the structure of them, they're
Yep.
quite wide and
What's with the hands on this one?
um yeah, I think they might be a bit thin, but that is realistic for the pinky, or would that be the pinky?
I mean,
Yeah. The pinky finger to be quite maneuverable. In fact, this is very common in a wide variety of different species of ornithopods, and this would continue to even certain hadrosaurs. But was very common earlier in the ornithopods evolution, even dating back to the Jurassic over 160 million years ago. But let's see who else, or at least when it comes to iguanodon, most tend to only associate this animal, at least if they've heard of it, with England. And iguanodon has also been discovered in certain areas of Spain, Germany, and I believe even Belgium, and not just England itself. Though some of the best footprints have come from England of this animal. So there is evidence for iguanodon roaming in herds during the early Cretaceous around 135 million years ago, at least in different areas of southern England. So let's head back to the article. So the footprints were left by herbivorous dinosaurs, including Iguanodon, Ankylosaurus, a species of stegosaur, and possible examples from the sauropod group, which included Diplodocus and Brontosaurus, as well as carnivorous
whoa,
theropods.
whoa, Ankylosaur is s- a species of stegosaur?
Well, okay, that there's a few problems here. One, no, Ankylosaurus is not a species of stegosaur. Ankylosaurus is a member of the Ankylosauridae lineage of dinosaurs, and it also would not evolve until somewhere around 68 million years ago over in Montana or the north central United States at the very end of the Cretaceous. Did you have armored dinosaurs in England at around this point? Yes. But the ankylosaurs specifically, not ankylosaur morphs, which includes both the family Ankylosauridae and Nodosauridae, but specifically Ankylosauridae or any members of that family had not evolved yet. There were Nodosaurs. Let's bring up a species of dinosaur named Hyalosaurus. That is quite interesting. So Hyaleosaurus. Might be an O after the E. He pop up?
Yeah, there's an E. It's EOS.
Okay. Well, this specific species of nodosaur, and the nodosaurs actually evolved much earlier into the Jurassic as well, around the same time as the first species. Some of the first species of horned dinosaurs, the ceratopsians, would have evolved somewhere around 160 to 165 million years ago. Now, Hoylosaurus did exist over in England during the early Cretaceous period. So I believe this was somewhere around 140 million years ago. So it could be one of the species of ankylosaurs, well, ankylosaur morphs or nodosaurs that they found footprints of within the sediment. Yeah, this is not a bad depiction of it. This was actually quite a typical sort of reconstruction for most species of ankylosaurs, not including the tail club, which it doesn't seem, at least at the moment, any species of nodosaur had. Only really members of Ankylosauridae had tail clubs, but that wouldn't appear on their morphology until much later in the Cretaceous. But many species of ankylosauromorphs back in the early 1900s, even to the late 1900s, were often depicted with these low-lying, um, elongated osteoderms, or you could even say spikes. I guess these aren't technically osteoderms; these just are just pieces of bone sticking from the sides of their body. And this would go for even Ankylosaurus itself. Euplacephalus, when in many cases, this is really only a trait that you see on different species of nodosaurs, which it definitely would have been very useful for having to combat different species of dromaeosaurs or the raptors, different species of megalosaurs, and another large group of theropod dinosaurs, and even different species of the family of theropods called Allosauroideae, which would consist of animals such as Allosaurus. But Allosaurus existed over in different parts of Europe and North America back in the late Jurassic. That specific genus at this point, 140 million years ago, had already gone extinct, but the family still remained. Let's see, who else am I thinking of? Oh, so these were herbivores. They would have been feeding on some of the first species of flowers to have evolved in different areas of Europe at this point in the Cretaceous, and as well feeding on different species of ferns. Bit of a question as to whether or not certain species would have fed on different species of aquatic plants. Now, let's see, what's another thing? This isn't a bad reconstruction of the ankylosaur. I think an issue is when it comes to the toes, there should be 5 toes, and only 3 should be clawed. And the other 2 would be blunt. This is very typical of certain species of nodosaurs, where the very end of their tail, for some reason, does not score any armor, which is odd. You would think, and in evolutionary terms, why didn't the body just continue to create spikes all the way to the very edge of their tail, um, because you could have an instance where, a predator could just bite it off. Wouldn't be easy, but it could. Also, with the nodosaurs, it seems that they had a much more narrow skull compared to their later ankylosaur um, descendants. So they had a very just thin and narrow snout. Even their nostrils were a bit smaller as well. But they still would have had an overall very armored skull compared to most types of dinosaurs, especially during the early Cretaceous, when this was a very new trait. Even though you could say they had some sort of armor back in the late Jurassic, it wasn't to the extent of the early Cretaceous. This is a very brand new sort of defense mechanism for this time. Hmm. Looks like here they sort of blurred out the other toes. It's funny. Okay, here it's showing the animal actually with a completely armored tail. Maybe it's just because this is an older representation. Still not bad, but this looks very good. I believe this is another species of nodosaur closely related to Huaylosaurus. There are over 20 species of nodosaur that have been discovered. So let's head back to the article. Oh, yeah, that was another thing. It mentions the sauropod group, and then, that's true. That includes Diplodocus and Brontosaurus, but these two genre of sauropods went extinct around 150 million years ago during the late Jurassic over in North America. So we do not find any Brontosaurus or Diplodocus species over in or specimens in England specifically, even Europe. Now, carnivorous theropods, that's a big question. There are certain species of early tyrannosaurs, but they're very small, and certain species of megalosaurs and dromaeosaurs or raptors that have been discovered in England. But at this point in the Cretaceous, actually, there could be the baryonyx spinosaur as well. But it's a bit of a question with those other theropods. You might have had animals like Vectoraptor, which we might pull up. I'm going to read this real quick. So they range in size from less than zero point 0.8 inches or 2 centimeters to over 23 inches or 60 centimeters across. That's a big difference. And are so well preserved that fine detail of skin, scales, and claws is easily visible. Well, that's really good to see. I mean, you have it where there is preserved osteoderm impressions. That's not very common in a wide variety of dinosaur footprints. When you're looking at a wide range of different long necked sauropod footprints over in North America, even South America, a lot of the time the scale impressions are not well preserved. And the same can be for different species of ceratopsians or the horned dinosaurs like Pachyrhinosaurus and Triceratops, or even different species of theropod dinosaurs like Allosaurus. So, whole body fossils of dinosaurs are incredibly rare. That is true. Usually, you only get small pieces, which don't tell you a lot about how that dinosaur may have lived. It's not just that. If you're only finding certain fragmentary pieces of a skeleton, it's not just how the dinosaur would have lived is a huge question. What dinosaur is it a lot of the time? There is quite a bit depending on what parts of the body as well as of those specific parts that you find. There can be quite a bit of that animal you can figure out. But in, I guess, the case that they're referring to, especially if it's a completely new species, it can be quite challenging just to obtain much about its anatomy or behavior. A collection of footprints like this helps you fill in some of the gaps and infer things about which dinosaurs were living in the same place at the same time. Wow, that is immense amount of scales. Dinosaur skin textures on footprint casts from the base of the Lee Ness sandstone. Polygonal skin texture on a theropod footprint cast. Really wonder who that is. Full extent of the texture on the toe of the footprint cast. Okay, let's see. Is there anything else? I'm going to go up to the top real quick. So, who specifically? So, these are two large iguanodontian footprints with skin and claw impressions from the Lee Ness sandstone of the Ashdown Formation. Well, those are pretty well intact. I'm wondering also if they found different scale impressions here, because to me it just seems that the sandstone created impressions itself. It's not specifically the skin coming from the iguanodon. Let's see. Also, let's bring up another carnivore, Vectoraptor. So Vectiraptor. Now, this animal lived in Europe, and especially England, around the same time as Utah raptor, but it was about the size, or was closer in size, to a creature that would arrive later in the Cretaceous, being Deinonychus, only reaching somewhere around maybe 2.9 meters, or basically around what little over 9 feet in length,
That's
and
actually an article on him.
probably around 200 pounds, or a little over 95 kilograms. So this animal, though, was definitely capable in packs of taking on many of the different species of iguanodontians in the area, possibly even certain younger individuals of different species of long-necked sauropods, even preying on juveniles of baryonyx, or even trying to think of another theropod. I was mixing it up with another part of the world. I think it was a megalosaur. But okay, this individual. So I forgot the name of the documentary. This came out back in the early 2000s. I think it was like 2004, 2005. And this is actually supposed to represent a velociraptor. They just had it taking down Protoceratops, supposed to replicate what occurred when, or there's a specimen over that was found in Mongolia of a Protoceratops and a velociraptor locked in battle. Basically, you have it where the Protoceratops is biting onto the Velociraptor's arm, and the Velociraptor is sinking its sickle claw, virtually its thumb toe claw, into the Protoceratops's neck. But they ended up being buried by sand somewhere around 71 million years ago.
What is this?
It could be Vectoraptor.
No, I meant
Maybe it's a younger individual. Certainly possible for it to still perch. Oh, I guess this is referring to its discovery. I mean, I guess we could take a look at it.
You wanna finish the other one first?
Yeah, yeah, let's finish the other one, and then we will go over and check out how the discovery occurred for Vectoraptor. It wasn't discovered very long ago either. So, in the Cretaceous period, the area where the footprints were found was likely near a water source. That's what it seems to be. Seems to be the case with many incidents where there's a wide variety of footprints. Water is not usually far away, and in many cases, it um, would have happened, or all this whole migration could have occurred along a beach or even along a floodplain. And in addition to the footprints, a number of fossilized plants and invertebrates were also found. It's good to see that a wide variety of plant material and even other organisms are discovered here, like different species of crustaceans, like especially mollusks, is what's probably referring to by invertebrates, but it has not said aquatic um, invertebrates. But it's very possible because it can definitely give a very big picture as to what this part of the ecosystem would look like. It also helps with the type of soil that it's being discovered in as well. To preserve footprints, you need the right type of environment. The ground needs to be sticky enough so that the footprint leaves a mark, but not so wet that it gets washed away. You need that balance in order to capture and preserve them. As well as a large abundance and diversity of these prints, we also see absolutely incredible detail. You can clearly see the texture of the skin and scales, as well as four-toed claw marks, which are extremely rare. Oh yeah, four-toed claw marks. Trying to think who would be creating that at this point. Maybe certain crocodilomorphs, but it didn't mention any crocodilomorphs. You can get some idea about which dinosaurs made them from the shape of the footprints. Comparing them with what we know about dinosaur feet from other fossils lets you identify the important similarities. When you also look at footprints from other locations, you can start to piece together which species were the key players. Well, definitely animals like Iguanodon, Hylaeosaurus, Vectoraptor in this instance, but they're also just a handful. The Baryonyx. Okay, well, I guess we can head over to that next article. Okay, so this was back at the end of 2021. So, new bird-like dinosaur species unearthed on Isle of Wight. So, this is the island just south of South Central England. I think south of the province or state of Hampshire, kind of like New Hampshire in the United States, I believe is what the state's named after. A new genus and species of Dromaeosaur dinosaur has been discovered by a team of paleontologists from the University of Bath and the University of Portsmouth. So here he is. It's likely, like even Deinonychus, it's been presumed that they could perch on large branches. Probably not too high up in the trees. I wouldn't doubt this animal could jump, over easily 8 feet in the air. We are talking about something that weighs probably somewhere around 200 pounds or a little over 95 kilograms. The newly identified dinosaur species roamed our planet during the early Cretaceous epoch between 130 and 125 million years ago. Named Vectoraptor greeneye, the ancient creature measured about 2.5 meters to 3 meters, or somewhere between 8.2 to 9.8 feet in length. It was a member of Dromaeosauridae, a very large family of feathered predatory dinosaurs. Vectoraptor greeneye's fossilized remains, two associated vertebrae, and a partial sacrum were collected from the Wessex Formation at Copton Bay, Isle of Wight. During the early Cretaceous, England supported a highly diverse dinosaur assemblage, said Dr. Nicholas Longrich, a paleontologist in the Department of Biology and Biochemistry at the University of Bath, and his colleagues. Perhaps the most diverse assemblage comes from the Wessex Formation of the Wealden group on the Isle of Wight. Yeah, the Wessex Formation does preserve, and even the different groups like the Wealden group. a wide variety of different species of carnivorous and herbivorous dinosaurs, even different species of flying pterosaurs. Also, not too far from this region, you have a wide variety of different species of marine reptiles, like the different species of long-necked plesiosaurs, different species of the large-skulled pliosaurs that occurred here as well. Now, we're in the early Cretaceous, still around 125 million years ago. So, we're also finding different species of ichthyosaurs that occurred here as well. While complete remains are rare, the fauna has been sampled and studied for over a century and includes both fossils and footprints, with around 20 dinosaur species now known. This high diversity is surprising because Europe was isolated from the rest of the world by seas for much of the Cretaceous. It was also separated even during the Jurassic as well. England was simply just a series of islands, though it still had a wide variety of different species of sauropods as well as different species of theropod dinosaurs. So that's a pretty accurate representation for Vectoraptor. So this animal would definitely be capable of making an easy meal out of somebody. Um, sheesh. I'm trying to think of how long Deinonychus's toe claws
I was
were.
gonna say
6
that's pretty
claws.
big.
I wonder how much more of Vectoraptor we have discovered because that's not very much. But those are massive back vertebrae for a dromaeosaur. Still not the largest, but decent size. I'd say Vectoraptor is a mid-sized dromaeosaur. According to the team, Vectoraptor green eye closely resembles early Cretaceous dromaeosaurs. It's been a little bit since that specific word has been uh, used from North America, suggesting a faunal exchange between Europe and North America. The diverse early Cretaceous dinosaur assemblage found in England and Europe resulted from dispersal from North America, Asia, and West Gondwana, likely involving both land bridges and oceanic dispersal. It's probably just talking about the different families of sauropod dinosaurs, as well as the ornithopods that were moving in, nodosaurs were moving into Europe from other parts of the world at this point in Cretaceous. Probably already occurring in the late Jurassic as well. You also had different lineages from Europe also expanding throughout the world too, like the tyrannosaurs. Europe served as a biotic crossroads in the early Cretaceous, allowing faunal interchange between land masses. It would still continue to do that even to the late Cretaceous. It wasn't just the early Cretaceous and late Jurassic that this was occurring. However, during the late Jurassic, the or Europe in general did experience a massive die-off of different types of theropods and Ornithischians, which is the lineage of dinosaurs in which animals such as Triceratops and Stegosaurus belong to, or the Ceratopsians and the Stegosaurs. That is also another thing that still existed at this point. Many tend to assume died off at the end of the Jurassic were the different species of Stegosaurs, which were thriving throughout the mid and late Jurassic, but they also did quite well into the early Cretaceous, mysteriously going extinct around 110 million years ago. So let's head on to the next article. I don't think it has anything to do with the seal at the moment. So from Sci News, small Triassic dinosaur from Brazil sheds new light on sauropodomorph growth strategies. This is definitely not something. This is not a group of dinosaurs when it comes to growth that's often talked about. Tends to be with certain. Well, okay, sauropodomorphs a very general term. It can refer to the long necked sauropods too. Many will just assume it has to do with the prosauropods or the ancestors to creatures such as Brachiosaurus and Brontosaurus, Argentinosaurus, when in reality it refers to the whole group, which was probably one of the most successful lineages of dinosaurs. First evolving, they were probably one of the first families of dinosaur to exist, like evolving somewhere around 235 to 240 million years ago at around the same time as some of their earliest theropods, or possibly earlier. However, with different species of early prosauropod, it seems like certain ones might have been carnivorous. So paleontologists have unearthed fossilized bones of one of the smallest sauropodomorph dinosaurs from the late Triassic of southern Brazil, offering fresh insights into early dinosaur development and physiology. I do like a wide variety of different species of small dinosaurs. It makes you wonder how they coexisted with being um, just sort of the almost not necessarily mice, but I'd say what the squirrels of the dinosaur era. Maybe a groundhog would be a better representation. There are also some very small species of antelope and deer as well that only weigh somewhere between 15 to 20 pounds or a little over 8 kilograms. Dr. Luciano Artemio Leal from the Universidad Estadual do Sudoeste da Bahia and colleagues collected the new dinosaur material from the Cerro da Alemão outcrop in southern Brazil. So the animal in the picture seems to be Massospondylus carinatus, so a small species of prosauropod from the Triassic of South Africa.
We can barely see him.
Massospondylus is probably one of the more slightly renowned species of prosauropod from the um, late Triassic to early Jurassic, so around 200 million years ago. So the Cerro da Alemão outcrop is a significant geologic and faunistic record of the Santa Maria supersequence in the central portion of the state of Rio Grande do Sul. Let's pull up another species, the Unaysaurus. So Unaysaurus.
Unaysaurus. What did I spell wrong?
Um, I could be missing a letter. I could be missing a letter or two.
No, I don't know what I.
No idea. Is it just simply not popping up?
No, it's not that. It's that I spelled it properly. Oh, no, I misspelled it. How did you spell it?
U N A Unayoos.
That's what it is. It's Unaysaurus.
Oh, it's just immediately Unasaurus. There was somebody else.
I got it.
No, I was thinking of a theropod. Yeah, this is simply one of the earlier species of, I believe, yeah, prosauropods at this point. So this was back in the early, I'd say mid Triassic, around 230 million years ago. So this was also around the same time as certain species of theropod dinosaurs, such as the Herrerasaurs. You know what, let's bring him up. Herrerasaurus. So both of these animals seem to have inhabited different parts of Brazil and Argentina during the mid Triassic. When it comes to Oneosaurus, this was actually a fairly small species of dinosaur. Now, this is Herrerasaurus. The largest of this group could reach somewhere around 9 to 13 feet in length, or pushing somewhere around 3 to 4 meters, and probably weigh a little over 600 pounds, or pushing a little over 280 kilograms, and was probably the top dinosaur predator at this time, though it wasn't likely the top carnivore in the ecosystems that inhabited, due to there being a wide variety of different types of crocodilomorphs that would have hunted not only the prey that it fed on, but as well itself. This is definitely an earlier depiction of a Herrerasaur. I forgot what book this was a part of, but it's fairly recognizable. I did like the illustrations beforehand or the different models. Yeah, this is a bit better. Also, rare source tends to be viewed as having a very green sort of pigment to it, which is very likely considering it would have made great camouflage depending on the ecosystem that it occurred in during the mid Triassic. You did have a wide variety of different deserts occurring throughout the supercontinent Pangea during the Triassic period. Herrerasaurus likely would have inhabited different sort of open area ecosystems or just open plains, not exactly grasslands, but a bit brushy, and possibly even inhabiting certain conifer forests too, where this specific type of pigment would have benefited it. When it comes to swamp and marsh ecosystems, at least swamps, they did occur in different areas of the world during the Triassic and even the mid Triassic around 230 million years ago. But with Herrerasaurus, I can't think of any formations that we have found this
That
specific
doesn't look
animal in.
swampy. It looks like he's on a beach.
Um, yeah, it does based on this model. Just Oh, yeah, also, when it comes to early species of theropod dinosaurs like Herrerasaurus, they didn't necessarily have extremely muscular forelimbs like some of their later descendants or their later relatives, because the Herrerasaurs ended up just simply mysteriously dying off during the later mid Triassic. So, around 220 million years ago, the Herrerasaurs had completely disappeared from the fossil record. There would be other groups of theropod dinosaurs, such as the Coelophysids or Coelophysidae, as well as other members of Neotheropoda that would have evolved. The Dilophosauridae later on, but unfortunately, the Herrerasaurs just disappeared. Now, this is Unesaurus. This is smaller than certain species of the carnivorous Herrerasaurs. This animal was maybe somewhere around 5 feet in length or pushing a little over 1.7, 1.8 meters, and probably weights of around 50 to 80 pounds or maybe pushing 35 kilograms, and was likely just simply feeding on a wide variety of different species of ferns and maybe smaller conifer trees in the different areas inhabited over in South America.
I was thinking it was a carnivore.
Earlier species of sauropodomorph likely would have been feeding on different species of small amphibians, reptiles, or even different species of insects. Maybe even having it where plants were just simply smaller part of their diet. But at least at this point in their evolution, they're quite herbivorous. I'd say the Unesaurus in this representation are a bit too ornithopod like, and the ornithopods wouldn't evolve until little over 165 to 170 million years ago. And this species of prosauropod would have had a much longer and also thinner neck compared to its body size. I'd say it's not just short, it's a little too muscular here. The arms, I wouldn't say they're necessarily bad. They could be a little longer, but it's almost looks ornithopod like too. Well, it's actually that's not true. It's a little more theropod like. I don't. When it comes to prosauropods in general, they don't have very hooked finger claws, which they do have somewhat long finger claws compared to definitely the ornithopods later on the Jurassic, but this is just a little too exaggerated. The feet don't seem terribly bad. They do have a bit of a theropod sort of look to them, but prosauropods sort of would have something between like just their own um I guess their own foot structure, or I guess you could say an ornithopod foot structure and a theropod foot structure, considering the sauropods were very closely related to the theropods. Let's see. When it comes to its overall also skull structure, It seems to be a bit too broad as well. I think it should be a bit longer and thinner, like resembling a lot of different species of prosauropods. In fact, I've got another species. Let's bring up the Riohosaurus. So Riojosaurus. There
Is
also
that
have
from
been
Rio de Janeiro?
um I think it's from Brazil, but it was also a bit well, yeah, I know where the capital is, but I believe is found a bit further south from that distinct city. This could be Riohosaurus. I think its neck is a bit short, though. Riohosaurus didn't have necessarily the long neck of certain species of other prosauropods. This could be an earlier reconstruction, but he should not be walking on all fours. But for the time, looks like maybe it came from the 1960s. It's not bad. Almost looks like that storybook with the yellow dinosaur
Okay, what does this keep
as a
coming up
kid.
with everything? Why isn't it coming up? This guy. I've now seen him listed under 3 different things.
Yeah, that can happen with a wide variety of different pictures with dinosaurs for some reason. Well, not just dinosaurs, many topics. Let's see. Okay, this Rheosaurus, those forearms are thick, way too thick. Same thing for the legs. This thing looks like somebody took a monitor lizard and just bulked it up. I mean, it does have a somewhat prosauropod look. Who's a better representation? You know, it almost looks like somebody took one of the earliest true sauropods, Volcanodon, and gave it almost like a sloth, tree sloth, not tree sloth, ground sloth like structure.
What's with these arms?
This guy's got a problem. He doesn't exist. He's almost got like a dragon and an Albertosaurus sort of morphed facial structure. Because if you take away the rest of the body, I would not think that that belonged on a sauropod. This is this is some weird hybrid. Um,
I just thought this guy ate a lot.
well, Rheosaurus could still reach a length of up to 33 feet or pushing 10 meters and probably weighed somewhere around 4 tons or a little over 8,000 pounds or pushing maybe 3,000 to 3,500 kilograms. So this animal was just simply feeding on different species of ferns.
It looks like he was feeding on everything.
You had different species of smaller conifers too. Somewhere around 196 million years ago, towards the first 7 to 8 million years of the Jurassic, over in South America. So let's head back to the article. Oh, actually, yeah, that first picture I should have clicked on that. Of
The
the
first one I hold on.
Rheosaurus.
Hold on, I'll go back to it.
Didn't look bad. Rheosaurus did have to be careful with certain species of crocodilomorphs and even the
That
later,
one?
yep, the later carnivores that would evolve too.
He's got a bad claw, though, on his paw.
Actually, that's okay. When it came to Platysaurus, I'd say the other one looks a bit, matches a bit more. Maybe it's just supposed to be extended out, like his finger specifically. I do like the whole, um, just depiction of it being a flooding river.
He doesn't look like he's been eating as much as the other one. He looks in better shape.
Yeah, he does. I do think he should have a bit of a longer neck structure, though. His skull doesn't look bad. Even the teeth look okay, by what I can see. Yeah, he just seems to match a lot more. I also like just the wrinkles along his neck. Okay, let's go over. So where were we? Okay. So the material dates to the Carnian age of the late Triassic epoch between 237 and 227 million years ago. So this is pushing mid to early Triassic. is composed of tiny bones, all smaller than 5.7 centimeters or 2.2 inches in length, including a partial humerus, a metatarsal. So we have part of the upper arm bone being the humerus, as well as part of the metatarsal being the ankle bone, an ungual phalanx, so having to do with the throat structure, a neural arc, and a vertebral centrum. Phylogenetic and anatomical analyses conducted by the team places the specimen firmly within the basal sauropodomorph clade. The specimen is an important juvenile dinosaur, so it's a younger individual. A combined analysis of its morphology, osteohistology, and phylogeny positions it as a basal sauropodomorph from the Brazilian Triassic period. Unlike later sauropodomorphs that achieved enormous body sizes, this early form appears to have had a much smaller stature while still in development. Um, well, I mean, that's definitely typical of a number of different species of prosauropods. Not all of them, even to the early Jurassic, and you have certain species like Ankylosaurus, not Ankylosaurus, Ankylosaurus, Anchisaurus, um, that really didn't reach much more than 8 feet in length. They're pushing like 2.6 meters. Let's see. And then you already had massive individuals occurring around 212 million years ago over in Brazil, pushing over 40 feet or 12 meters in length. So let's see. So, crucially, the bone microstructure reveals evidence of at least one complete cycle of growth interruption with a line of arrested growth, suggesting that the individual experienced pauses in development early in life. That's captivating. This pattern indicates that even at small body sizes, early sauropodomorphs may have adopted flexible growth strategies, a finding that could help explain the later emergence of gigantism in this group. Well, the gigantism occurring in the later species of true sauropods, unless you consider a 40-foot long 8-ton prosauropod is enormous, which it would be for the prosauropod group, not so much for later sauropods. If you were only weighing around 8 tons, you were small for a basic sauropod. The observed features suggest an individual still in development, having already undergone its first growth arrest and being midway through its second cycle. These analyses suggest autogenetic features of a juvenile sauropodomorph with a single growth arrest. Our results provide evidence for novel growth strategies during the early evolution of this group, leading to the emergence of small body dinosaurs in the Triassic. Yet 230 million years ago, most species of dinosaurs were quite small, like pushing not much more than 8 feet. And an 8 foot long dinosaur pushing around 2.6 meters is probably about average for the time. Whether a certain species of theropod or even um, herbivorous sauropodomorph dinosaur, considering the ornithischians had not evolved yet. So the ancestors more closely related to the ceratopsians, the stegosaurs, ornithopods wouldn't evolve until really the beginning of the Jurassic, around 200 million years ago. So that's it. Thanks for joining, and we will see you Friday. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guide Live Daily News. And remember, we're also streaming on X, Rumble, Kick, and YouTube. Remember that nothing is better than all animals all the time.